So let's go ahead and learn how to download and install or import the Sean Lahman baseball database, which is a free baseball database. And here's the URL you want to go to. I'll leave that on the screen so you can see it. And so we're going to go to that URL. Then I want you to scroll down, and we are not doing 2017. We're going to go ahead and go with 2016 Microsoft Access version. That's the one we're going to use. So click on 2016 Microsoft Access version, and it's going to download that file as a zip file. Once it downloads, then you'll go ahead and click on the arrow and do a show in folder, and then you need to right mouse click on that entry and do an extract all. And we're going to go ahead and let it use that default database or that default folder. Click extract, and it's going to extract the Microsoft Access file we're going to work with. So we can close those windows. Now let's open up SQL Server Management Studio, and we'll open that up, and then it's going to prompt us for the database connection that we've already created earlier when we installed. And so I'll click on connect. Hopefully you have something in there. If not, you click on the down arrow and you go find your database connection. So I'm going to connect to that, and then I'm going to come to databases. I'm going to right mouse click on database and choose new database. I'm going to type in the word baseball. Now this is very important. Right here on the initial size, this might seem like a lot, but I've been playing around with this, trying to get it to work correctly. And someone had mentioned online that it's a little over 900 meg of a database, so I'm just going to put 900 in the initial size. Now if you don't have that much disk space, maybe you can have somebody on the team do it and you can all work together, since the assignment we're going to do is a group assignment anyway. Click OK. So make sure you do 900. I've tried 500, 600 and had some errors. So I'm going to click on the plus sign, and there's my database, and if you notice, there's no tables in it yet. So with baseball highlighted, I'm going to right mouse click and choose tasks, import data, and click on next. This is the wizard for importing data. You have to specify where you want to get it from. So we'll click on the down arrow, and we're going to go get this from a Microsoft Access database, and we're going to click on browse and go choose our Lahman 2016 database. We'll click next. And now you've got to specify the destination. Our destination is a SQL Server native client. You might have 11. If you don't, look for the SQL Server native client, and it should have your server name that you created. Click next, and now we're going to copy data. So click next. Now we have to choose which ones we want to copy. I'm going to go ahead and limit the number of ones I'm going to work with. I've been playing around with this, and if I choose too many, it errors out. So to be safe, I'm just going to do A through C, and you can click preview and see if there's data in there, which it looks like there is. I'll click next, finish, and finish. And now it's going to go through and import those databases, and we should end up hopefully with a green check mark for success. Click close, and we're going to continue this process. Right mouse click task, import database file, data file, next. Choose the source, which is a Microsoft Access. Click browse, choose Lahman, click open. Next, choose the output, which is the SQL Server native client. Next, we're going to copy, so click next. I did A through C, so now I'm going to do F through M, and hopefully you can do that many also and not get an error. Click next, finish, finish, and it's going to bring all those tables in for us. If we were using the real version rather than the express version of SQL Server, we probably wouldn't have a problem. Close and continue this process. Import data, next, and do data source, Access Engine, browse, Lahman, open, next. Choose the output, which is SQL Server native client, next, copy, next, and from here I would just start doing them one at a time. So I'm going to click Parks, click Next, Finish, Finish. It brings in Parks, and then I'm going to continue this process by doing Baseball, right mouse click on Baseball, Task, Import Data. Next, choose the data source, Microsoft Access, choose Lahman, choose the output, copy, and pitching. And so just keep doing this one at a time until all of them have imported. You should get a green check mark on each one. Finish and finish. There's our green check mark. And I'm going to close. And so continue that process and get the rest. So now that you've done the rest of those one at a time, come back to Baseball, right mouse click, choose Refresh. Click on Tables, and you should see all of your tables for the Lahmans Baseball included. If you do have an error, you can always right mouse click on Baseball, do a delete, and do the process again, and maybe just do them one at a time. I've noticed with the 2016 it seems to work better than 2017, so hopefully it works for you. Once you have that in, we could make sure that we have good data in there. So let's go ahead and click on New Query. And when you click on New Query, this area right here tells you what database you're working with for your queries. You can click on that down arrow. You can see all the different databases. Or something you could do is in your actual query, you could say use whatever database you want to work with, semicolon. And then you could actually run a query. And then you could type in whatever query you want to do. Actually, it doesn't have to be this way, but I'm going to go ahead and make my SQL statements all uppercase, and I like to put them on separate lines. So I'm saying using the baseball database, semicolon. Once again, I didn't have to do that if baseball was selected right here. Then I say go grab everything from the master table. Well, the master table are the records that represent the players. So I could then click Execute, and this shows the list of all the players, and it shows their names, and looks like the database installed correctly. So I can now work with the tables. I'm going to go ahead and close SQL Server Management Studio, and I don't want to save anything there. And then I want you to go back to your file that you downloaded and you extract it. So I'm going to click on Windows Explorer, and I'm going to go back to the Downloads folder, not the zip, but the actual folder, and there's another file in there called README. I'm going to open that up, and this is actually the documentation for that database. If you scroll down, I'm going to make the font a little bit smaller. Let's go to 22. You can see that we have information in this file that can show you or tell what's going on with this database. So as I scroll down, we'll see that there's an introduction talking about what we do or what is done with that database, and they're just giving the acknowledgments. But if you scroll down to data tables, you're going to see they give you some descriptions. The master table, that's all the player names and the biographical information, the batting statistics, the pitching statistics, the fielding, the all-star appearances, if they had Hall of Fame voting, managerial stats, and so on. So you might want to take a look at this file and get used to what the database actually is trying to describe. And then it will give you a documentation talking about each table and a description for the columns in that table. I would take a look at this because you'll see that the master table has a player ID, which is a unique code assigned to each player, and that's going to be the link to other files. For instance, to the batting table, there's the link. We also have a year for that player and a team ID, and it'd be interesting for you to go look at those tables and see who are the primary keys. Same thing with pitching, year, and so forth. In fact, let's do that. Let's go take a quick look at the SQL Server Management Studio and look at our baseball database. First thing we have to do is connect to that database again. So let's connect to it, and we'll go to the baseball database, and we're going to look at the tables, and let's take a look at batting. And there's the columns. Notice we have player ID, year, stint, team ID. Let's look at the keys. And we don't really have the keys defined on that. That's interesting, isn't it? That means that if we run queries, we're going to be responsible for choosing who are the primary keys. And that's because when we imported those tables from Access, it didn't set up the primary keys. If we go look at the batting table, I'll right mouse click, choose the top 1000 rows. We're going to notice that the player ID is duplicated more than once. And then the year ID is different. The stint is the same value, and team ID is different. So if you take a look at this, you might have to ask yourself, well, what are the primary keys? From what I can tell, player ID is not unique. Year ID might be unique, but maybe it's a composite key of player ID and year ID. But wait a minute, look at this record. He has year ID duplicated with this player ID, but the stint is different, and that's because he ended up playing on more than one team in 1 year. So it looks like the primary key is a composite between player ID, year ID, and stint. So that's something interesting to take a look at when you're looking at data in tables, trying to figure out what they tried to do. Here's a player that had 3 different stints because he was on 3 different teams. Anyway, that's the baseball database we're going to be working with, and you're going to be writing queries with your team to solve the problems that are coming up. So we can go ahead and close our database and close our text file, and we're done working with it.